house, and they're like, when they were younger, they would be crawling all over him while we're watching the game, and
So
it
we're
was just
connected
like,
to YouTube. Sorry, you're just
you
seeing
know,
this prompt because we're
yeah, I
connected to
did,
YouTube. We're not live yet, but just click OK. Sorry.
yeah,
And then we'll go live whenever we're ready, which is right now.
yeah.
All right. I think we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the seventh rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a big special feature review for Star Trek Prodigy Season 2, Episodes 1 through 5. Go watch Star Trek Prodigy all month of July, of course. We have a very special guest. He was the supervising producer for Season 1 of Prodigy, co-executive producer for Season 2 of Prodigy. He's got his directorial debut for Season 2, Episode 2, Into the Breach, Part 2. It's Patrick Krebs. How are you, Patrick?
Hi everybody, how you doing?
Awesome.
All right.
Wow, this is so cool. So Sirach and I are dipping our toes and by dipping our toes, I mean like slamming 5 episodes at a time. It's so fun.
The only
But
way to
thank you
do it,
so
of
much for hanging out with us, Patrick. This is really
course,
cool.
of course. Yeah, it's the only way to
Yeah.
do it. It's like when I go back and I rewatch them on Netflix, there's so much of it. There's so much of it. So it's nice to slam a couple episodes at a time.
The good thing is the 20-minute interval makes it quick, so it's like, it's a good hour and a half, and you
Yeah,
can get a good number of episodes in and pause it where you want to. So
yep,
I think that was a good feel for it too.
totally. I think the first season dropped sometime around Christmas. I was at home at my parents' house and I tried to watch as many episodes as I could, to just do my part to hit the numbers. And I think I got to like episode for, you pause it every now and then to get up and get a snack. Family comes in the room, cooking a meal, something like that. And I think at the end of the day, I started at like 9 in the morning and I got to like episode 14, I think, by
Yeah,
like five
yeah.
o'clock. And then I was just like,
Wow.
yeah, I just needed to turn the TV off at that point. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
That's the thing with this serialized way that you guys do your show. It's 20 episodes, which sounds gigantic, but they're like 22, 25 minutes. It's super serialized. So you
Yeah,
basically just watch until you have to go to bed or go to work. You know what I mean? You don't have to worry about
Yeah.
like little
totally.
individual episodes. It's amazing.
I
But
love it because I get home from work and then, eat dinner with the kids, kids go to sleep, and then I've got like a half an hour, where I want to just zone out and watch something quickly before I go to bed. And it's, perfect format for that. I don't want to sit down and watch something that's an hour long. I don't want to watch a movie. I just want to watch something that's like 22 minutes, clear my
perfect.
mind, go to sleep.
Well, let's very quickly address the people in the live chat. Hello, Glenn, Dave, Fran, Chuck, Walter, Brenda, Melissa, Linda,
Lisa.
and everybody. Athena, Lucia is out in Brazil. Faith Howell, we know you. Chuck A, what's up? Dr. Anne-Marie Siegel in Manhattan, and everybody, KL Bliss. We see all of you. Thanks for hanging out with us. So what we're doing is these big special features because we're trying to condense it into the entire month of July rather than stretching it out for 4 months because July is super important. Everybody make sure you watch Star Trek Prodigy for the entire month of July. Don't say, I'll watch the rest in September. Don't do it. Watch it all right now. This is very, very important. The numbers have to be really good in July, and hopefully we will influence Netflix to pick up season 3 or whomever. So that's the point of what we're doing here. Patrick Krebs has been amazing to join us today. So please, Patrick, can you tell us a bit about your job? What do you do for Star Trek Prodigy, bringing us this amazing goodie?
Oh man, let's say what don't I do is a better question. No, we were such a skeleton crew on season two, getting through it because of all the studio politics and stuff that were going on and the pandemic and all that kind of stuff. So there were really very few of us, and a lot of the artists rolled off kind of halfway through the production of the episodes, because there's so much time between doing design work and finalizing the episodes and getting them off to the network. So it was really a labor of love. It was like Kevin and Dan would come into the office every now and then. I'd come into the office every now and then. And our animation director, Jason Meyer, who you guys should meet with too. He's great.
Hmm.
Um, would come into the office every now and then. And by coming to the office, I mean there was this like hybrid work situation where if I was at home, I'd sit in the garage and just like pound away at stuff. And then if I needed the server, if I needed to get through a lot of different shots or take a look at a lot of things that I needed the network speeds for, I'd go into the studio and then, just do a long day at the studio. And we had some days where a couple of people would come in and we'd go get lunch together and stuff. Pretty
Nice.
fun. But so my responsibilities span from the beginning of the pipe to the end of the pipe. And by pipe, if you're non-initiated, it means the way that the content moves through the system, kind of like a factory. But it starts with a script and it ends up with the final picture. But it has to go through all these different stages of animation, all through these different stages of building the assets, putting everything together. So when we're dealing with scripts, I'm looking at the scripts to make sure that we can stay within budget limitations and to make sure we have clever creative solutions for problems if the script starts to go out of bounds. Um, and I think season 2 was the best test of that yet. I mean, so much happens in season 2, and so many
So
of
much
these.
just in these first 5 episodes. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
Dude, the first like 4 episodes of that script of the season are like a little mini movie in and of
Mhm.
themselves, but when you see everything that happens throughout the season, I don't want to like spoil anything, but it goes through so many arcs and so many different pieces of character development and so many different situations and kind of crazy things that it was really a challenge. And we kind of had like a more limited budget than we did on season 1, and we had a more limited crew, and we had less time, way less time to get it out. But I think it turned out better than season 1. So we really hit our stride, and I hope it gets to continue because it's a great show.
Really
Yeah,
is.
because you could not tell that it was any kind of a limited budget. It looks just the quality is A plus. I have a question for you about transitioning from season 1 to season 2. Was what did you already have kind of in mind for the story arc for season 2 at the end of season 1, or did you come in and start bringing all of that together? Because I want to say, watching these first 5 episodes felt like I'm watching Voyager kind of get reassembled in front of me a little
Yeah,
bit.
Avengers.
It's like they're slowly coming back together, and it's um and I just want to know if that was like the plan going in at the end of season 1.
I think it was. I mean, that's kind of like a Kevin and Dan question, and I think Aaron Waltke has more insight into that he could give you. But I think that, you know, it was always kind of it's always kind of was thought of as like a 2 season arc. There are ideas out in the ether about the third season that I know, during production of second season, you walk around the office, you talk about stuff. Everybody starts to brainstorm. And when you get excited about the series and you go, well, what could we do next? Who else could we bring back? What could we play with? What was unresolved in the original series? Um, and what can you do? So yeah, that was kind of the operating mode when we got the green light on season 2. They went to work on that stuff, and the first time the first time I get to see it is when I'm reading the script for the first time. I get kind of like an initial rough draft, and
Mhm.
then we take a look and break it down. And one of the good things about season one was that we had a bank of like 10 scripts going into production, which is always helpful.
Wow.
Every time you start a TV show, something gets snagged, and then you're in production, and then you're rewriting the pilot, and then you're kind of
Mhm.
like laying the track for the train as you go.
Yeah.
And so there was a little bit of that on season two, but it wasn't bad. I think this was probably one of the best TV production experiences I've ever had when it comes to having that information ahead of time. But yeah, when you read that first one and they do the reveal of Voyager, that was really one of the most exciting things to me as a fan,
Mm,
because we've
yeah.
seen we've seen that a couple times in Star Trek. And like I wanted it to look like when they reveal the Enterprise for like the motion picture, or is it? I think it's Wrath of Khan at the beginning of Wrath of Khan.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
I thought you meant like the slow, like 5 minute, zoom into what was that in the motion picture?
This what was it? I think it was maybe it was the motion picture. I might be getting them mixed up.
Maybe I'm
Um,
thinking of Spaceballs.
but we really wanted to do that, like, it's Kirk meets with Scotty and Bones, and then they get on the shuttlecraft and they go out to the Enterprise. And we
Mhm.
really wanted it to be like that. We wanted it to be at Mars, so it's at Utopia Planitia.
Hmm.
Um, at a space dock there, we kind of modeled the space dock as a modern kind of version of what you see in the reveal of the Enterprise A. Um, and yeah, it was really important to me that it kind of felt like that, you know. And we had no idea that I don't know if it's spoiler alerts for Picard or anything, but we had no idea what they were doing for season three, and those productions were kind of running concurrently with ours. And
Okay.
every now and then we get to like talk to somebody.
You guys
Uh,
clearly communicated because I heard that line where
yes,
they said, "Oh, the original one is out in the museum somewhere or something like that, right?" The
totally,
Voyager.
totally. There are little callbacks back and forth.
Mhm.
And Terry was always really cool about that.
Mm.
Uh, so uh, yeah, I mean, so we'd have like somewhat of a picture of what they were doing, and there'd be like rumors, well, don't do this. You don't want to step on any toes when it comes to this thing, and there'd be like little leaks of information here and there between the productions, but yeah, I think it blended pretty well together. And it was always kind of the idea that the end of our season would kind of bridge into where the beginning of Picard starts, so
Mm.
that there's kind of like a bridge there too.
It's amazing that Prodigy season two and Picard season three are kind of interconnected like that because they seem like productions that are so far apart, but you guys made them feel like they're all kind of part of the tapestry, like just the next step. But here's what I want to talk to you about, Patrick,
Sure.
for just a moment, if that's okay with you. You are now officially a director of Star Trek, which is one of the coolest things you could ever put on a resume, or as the French say, a CV, and some New Yorkers. So I feel like that was possibly the first time you've directed something like this. How did you just say, you know what? I want to give it a shot. Were you looking over someone's shoulder for a while? Did you?
Oh, so this was like because of my role as a supervising producer and co-executive producer on this season, there's a lot of like management of the different teams and the different details, right? And so I always say it's my job to be there when the EP can't, like when it came to Ben, when it came to Kevin and Dan, if there was something more important that had their attention, if there was a voice record that day, or they had to go to a sound mix or something like that, then the decisions fall on me to make sure everything continues through. And hopefully I can make decisions in line with, what they're thinking, and uh, stuff that will service the show the best way possible. So when it came to getting to direct this episode, it's funny. There had been like there have been several conversations throughout both seasons where I was doing things on the episodes where I was like, well, I should get a directing credit on this because of the amount of directing work that I'm doing on this particular episode. One of the episodes was like 106 is when we do the holodeck.
Kobayashi Maru.
Kobayashi Maru, which was
Unbelievable.
Aaron's episode, and that was another one that was like really, really important to me to get right. Like not only in the details, but also in the way that you kind of like fudge the details. So there were like callbacks to Wrath of Khan in there. There were callbacks to TNG. Odo, of course, was in there. Renee was in there. And it was really important to me to get those details right. And so there was a lot of work that I did on that episode to, make sure camera lines of action were right, to make sure we were looking at that bridge the way that we were looking at that bridge in the original uh Next Generation. And so when it came to season 2, it had happened a couple of times and I hadn't gotten the credit for it. And we actually were in a position where um because the writing was on the wall when it came to the TV show at that point, it hadn't been sold to anybody. And Paramount was looking like it was gonna, either shutter its doors or sell or something. And so we had a lot of crew attrition. And everybody was kind of like out there looking for different jobs on different TV shows, and the director on the show left. And so as the person in my role, it was up to me to finish the episode. Ben had directed the first episode, and he was too busy to like get into another episode like that with all the stuff that he had to do. And that the first episode's really, really, really difficult in any season because you're kind of setting the tone for the rest of the
Yeah.
episode. You want to make sure everything comes off without a hitch. You want to make sure everybody stays there for the second episode, you know? Um, and so when it came to the second one, I was just like, okay, I'll do it. And they gave me the credit this time. So I'm absolutely psyched for that. Told my parents. My parents are like, "Oh, that's fantastic." Like that's what gets them excited. They're like not excited that I'm an executive producer on the show. They're like, "Oh, you got to direct," you know. But it is really, really fun to play around with that stuff and to look at the shots. And I mean, going back a couple days ago, I put on episode 2 because I knew it was coming on the podcast and wanted to freshen up a little. And I was like,
Yeah.
this really turned out really well. Like the shots are nice. This is very cinematic. It's thoughtful.
Beautiful.
Ton of stuff happens. And it kind of sets
Mhm.
up the rest of the season. So yeah, it's a fantastic experience.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a
it
lot of
looks
stuff in
amazing.
these first 5 episodes had a ton of stuff. I actually got a Bell Riots name. I thought, wasn't there a moment where they mentioned the Bell Riots, talking about temporal
Timey-wimey.
Oh yeah,
timey-wimey
yeah,
stuff.
Yeah,
yeah.
which is a Doctor Who reference, by the way, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, timey-wimey.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I
I also
believe
saw a
so.
Dr. Aaron McDonald reference, which I thought was great. Shout out to
Totally.
Dr. Aaron McDonald and sliding her in as in
Oh,
the episode.
she's fantastic. She's fantastic. There are so many times where, like we get in these meetings about some of the things that would be happening in the episode, and like I wouldn't say we'd fight about it, but we disagree with like the science, or we disagree with how this or that. And we go out to Dr. Aaron was always there and always helpful. And I think like we wanted to get her on the show as a character. And
Yeah,
so that's coming.
Pretty awesome.
yeah.
I do want to point out that Mr. Aaron J. Waltke is in the live chat, and he
Oh,
says,
Yeah.
"You did a great job, Patrick." And he
oh,
means it
thanks,
because there's
Aaron.
an exclamation point. And by the way, Aaron seems like one of those guys that has strong opinions on science. He seems like the kind of guy that would be like, Actually, I'm pretty sure the science works this way. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like he's got a pretty strong grasp on science.
There's a while on the there's a little while on the first season before I met Aaron where Aaron wasn't in the office, and I know he's listening because he's in the chat, right? So correct me if
Yeah.
I'm wrong. But we were trying to figure out how we were going to do this thing. It's when we were designing, Ben was designing the protostar. We were going through like character modelers by the handful, trying to get the look of the show right, trying to feel the soul of what this thing would be like when it came together. And just kind of churning and burning artwork and designs and just trying to find it. And we'd be in these meetings, and uh, I'm not like the biggest craziest fan of Star Trek, but I mean
But
but Star Trek is like is the first movie. Wrath of Khan was the first movie I remember seeing. The second movie was Ghostbusters. My dad rented them both when my mom went out of town, and I got to stay up late and we watched those because it was stuff that I was probably not allowed to watch.
that's two of the
Uh,
best movies of all time, though, to be honest.
Two of
That's
the
great
best movies of all
upbringing.
time.
Really
Absolutely. After
is.
that, I was absolutely hooked. I was absolutely hooked. Um, and so, but like I'd be in these rooms and people would like kind of know about Star Trek. And it was like all throughout my teenage years. Like I watched TNG religiously. I watched every Sunday, and then they'd have reruns. I'd watch the reruns over and over again. I was the kind of computer geek that was sitting in the basement on his computer, and I'd have a TV in the background just playing because Star Trek would be on all the time on UPN. Deep Space Nine,
Hmm.
obviously, I watched, and that was like controversial at the time. There was a really split community. Some people were like, "Oh, it's not Star Trek. They're on a they're on a space station or whatever." And I kind of like went into it with this attitude of like, um, this isn't gonna be the same, And within like 3 episodes of Deep Space Nine, I was just like better than TNG, obviously. And then I went into Voyager and I watched all of Voyager. And then even Enterprise, even Enterprise. I watched most of Enterprise. And at that point, I think I was like, I don't know, I
Yep.
can't remember when Enterprise came out. Um, like,
2000. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, do you have a date? Because I can't
Yeah, I
remember
think it's 2001 to
2001
2005, if I remember correctly. I could be
to
wrong.
2000.
Correct us in the live chat,
Yeah.
Aaron Waltke, since I'm sure he knows.
So that's like Enterprise was out. Like I was at that point, I was out of college and I was working in finance. And there'd be Friday nights where I would like turn on Enterprise and watch Enterprise sometimes.
Hell yeah.
Um, but uh sorry, I don't know where I was going with that. I was just talking about so I'd be
Yeah,
We were just talking about Star
yeah,
Trek. That's what we
so,
do.
yeah,
yeah.
so I'd be in the room and I'd kind of be like the Star Trek expert. Things would come up that would need questions answered, and I had answers, And then Walkie showed up, and it was just like all bets were off. All
He
bets
was
were
like,
off.
"I'll take that job."
There were like I was just like it got to the point. It got to the point where I was like, I'm not even gonna try. Walkie's right here. Let's just ask Walkie.
Yeah,
And
that's the phone a friend.
he'd always have the answers. And like thank God there were a couple of us on the crew because things got so hairy with the if you when you watch this season, um I wanted to say nobody's going to pay attention to that level of detail, but I know people will, right? Just the badges and the costume changes
Yeah.
are every time you see a character with a new badge, every time you see a character with a new um hairstyle, anytime you see a character
Yep.
with a new uniform, that is a unique like asset. That's a different person when it comes to like building these things. You
Mhm.
don't just throw a jacket on an actor and put him back out there or put a fake beard on him or something like that. It's like a totally unique character, has to go through all the approval processes again. Everybody wants to see what it's going to look like. And then tracking it from episode to episode in a season that's all based around like closing the loop on a time travel story.
Good luck with that.
Yes. So you
Let me
like it's crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy. So thank God we had people like Aaron.
let me ask you this,
Yeah.
Patrick. With regards to directing, was it was it surprising? Were there things that surprised you about it? Did you feel like since you kind of dipped your toes into it before, you're okay with it? What surprised you about it? And would you like to do it again, or was it just kind of a one-time thing?
Oh, I'd absolutely love to do it again. I love every aspect of um I don't even know what to call it now, as like TV and film kind of like merge, and there's this weird streaming thing. I don't,
Mhm.
I'm sure 100 years from now they'll look back on this and they'll have like words for what this era was. But no, I mean, for as long as I can remember, I went to grad school at NYU because I wanted to go back to school and like do film. Um, Once I graduated, I moved out to California and have been working in animation ever since. Um, and it's just kind of like studying, like actively studying things when you're watching TV or when you're watching movies, seeing how the camera moves, seeing how the people um, move on the screen, what it means subconsciously and consciously, where the cuts are, what the timing of the cuts means, what it does to your mind psychologically, what makes you anxious, what makes you happy, what makes you scared. Um, it, I don't know. Ever since, I can remember, I was just a visual person. And so when it comes to this medium, it's my favorite thing. And
Mhm.
that's why I came out to LA to do this. Was I mean, my whole life I struggled with talking about movies to people and talking to TV shows about people, and I was just kind of like this geek in school that didn't have like, you know, um a group to talk to about that stuff, and then I came out here and it's like everybody, like you go to lunch, everybody around you is talking about it. Everybody's talking about
Mhm.
the latest thing, everybody's talking about camera angles, everybody's talking about shot composition, everybody's talking about cinematography, everybody's talking about acting, everybody's talking about believability. Was it good? Was it not good? Was it more like this? Was it less like this? And I was like, oh my God, finally I have a tribe. So absolutely,
Big
if
one.
I got the opportunity to direct anything, I would take it. Um, it's a fantastic gift for anyone that gets to do it, I think. I think at any stage of doing TV or doing movies is really a fantastic gift. Being able to express yourself creatively with a team of people that want to express themselves creatively is like it's the coolest thing, that somebody can have an idea in their minds, in their imaginations, and then take it through this process and it becomes this valuable product that is a living product. I mean, it's like it's a thing that
It's a
lives
thing.
forever. You guys were just watching a TNG episode. So,
Yeah,
um,
it doesn't go away. And neither does another franchise that you worked on that I have a lot of love for, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Heard
yeah,
of it.
yeah,
You heard of that, right, Ryan?
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So you've also got work in on there. So
Cirroc seems like a
yeah,
Donatello guy. It seems like he likes Donatello the best.
Donatello was always my favorite too.
Maybe I was
I
getting
like
my
him.
wires crossed.
I'm not mad at Michelangelo either. He's
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
no,
Teenage.
this is fantastic. This show has been really hitting like all the marks because we have invested in these characters. We've seen these characters kind of grow up, and I wanted to ask you. I felt a little bit more maturity in some of the characters' voices. I want to say specifically, maybe it was Rock Talk. Felt
Mhm.
like they
Interesting.
their voice matured to some level, or just
Yeah.
And did you notice that with any of the characters that maybe they had grown or their voice had changed slightly?
Well, Riley for sure, because Riley was so young when we started.
Right.
Um, and we were really, I think this thing was in production for like, if you really, really from inception to completion is probably like 5 years, you know, and I think a hardcore production is about 3 years. Um,
Wow.
and you know, so Riley from beginning to end definitely changed. And if
Hmm.
you hear Riley today, because she's still out there, she's doing voice work and stuff like that, her voice has
Yeah.
changed. Her voice has changed. And it's one of the difficult processes when you like do a show with this, whether or not you're gonna like hire kids that are the age of your characters or whether you're gonna hire adults that can approximate the voices of the
Hmm.
characters. There was when I really early on when I started at the studio, Butch Hartman was at the studio making shows, and he told me that he only casts adults to do the children's voices because, you know, if these things run for like 5 or 6 seasons, then the characters, their voices change completely. It's like really hard to manage.
Hmm.
You get a kid that turns into a teenager, the voice starts to crack, and it gets weird. But I think I mean, the way our stuff went was the voices were pretty steady all the way through. But I think Riley was the only one that really, really changed. But it
You
worked,
know,
right? Because
Yeah.
Rock got trapped on that ship for a couple of years.
yeah, well, she
Yeah.
also Rock Talk seems like a young kid, and so it's only natural that she would grow up. But I did notice a different voice myself, and it was Robert Picardo. I was like, the doctor is speaking in this more sweet, sincere. I wanted to nitpick it, but I was like, I love this. Like this feels more like Robert Picardo, like the actual human, than the EMH doctor. The EMH doctor originally was like very stiff and rigid, and he was very
Mhm.
charming, and we loved him, but he was uppity. Whereas this one seems so sweet, and I loved hearing his voice, and it was a slightly different type of character, and it works because his program changes, and he grows and he adds things to it. But anyway, that was just something I noticed. Did you get a chance to talk to or work with directly any of the voice actors, or at least see them at a premiere party or anything like that? Or was everything practically remote or alone in an office with two other producers or writers?
It was mostly remote, but there were a couple situations. There were a couple situations where like Kate came to the offices. Um, and we saw Kate at a number of different Star Trek events, like Star Trek Day, which they had a couple of different years there in a row. Um, I'm trying to think. Robert Picardo, definitely. I feel like I've run into Robert Picardo in different situations though, like Star Trek and non-Star Trek situations. Like he's around.
Hmm.
Robert Beltran, I've never met. The kids, absolutely. I mean, so Riley, we'd have screenings every time we'd put 2 episodes in the can. We'd air them at a movie theater in Nickelodeon, and Riley would
Oh,
always come. And some of the other voice actors would come to those too. Um, I'm trying to think. Will Wheaton I've run into a bunch of times, because he lives in the area. So I've seen him at like the comic book shop, um, stuff like that. But
You
oh,
run into
also,
Will Wheaton at the comic book shop. That's so
yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
I love that. That's so great.
I'd say, well, it's just random. It's just random happenstance, you know. I'm trying to think of if there was anyone else.
so tell me about this screening thing.
Uh,
Every 2 episodes, you screen an episode at Nickelodeon.
yeah. So if we finished, so every 2 episodes that we finished, we would, yeah, sometimes down to the wire, sometimes like 3 days before the scheduled timing. And you had to schedule that stuff ahead of time because it's the movie theater in the studio. So everybody's kind of like scheduling dates for their shows. It's a great opportunity to sit down with the crew and to just, be in a small screening theater and watch the show on a big screen. And when
Yeah.
you watch, like you're seeing these things on your monitors, you're seeing these things on TVs. The color correct monitors are like a little bigger than normal monitors. You're looking at maybe like 150 inches or something like that. But when you watch it on that big screen, if it holds up,
Yeah.
and it's like I would sit
Totally.
there and just nail bite in anxiety because it's like I know where all the little glitches are. And something would
From
go,
it being blown up and you being
yeah,
18
well,
inches away from it.
it's blown up that big and so you get super worried and then
Yeah,
it
but the
goes,
ships would look great though. I can
oh,
imagine like seeing Voyager in that theater
yeah,
size
it
screen.
goes by, yeah, and that stuff goes by and you just go, oh man, that worked, and it's holding up. This is great. This is great. Um, but yeah, absolutely. And then the good stuff, like you're saying, is when you get those reveal shots of Voyager, or you get those really like money cinematic moments that you
Mhm.
Which are
spent,
all over the place.
they're
It
all
looks gorgeous. It's everywhere. The exteriors, the interiors, the animation, the colors, the uniforms. This is such a gorgeous series. There must be meetings just about color schemes, or like
oh
it's
yeah.
unbelievable.
Well, it's a that's that's a testament to everybody that worked on the show. I think I've never been a part of a crew that has been as passionate about a property. It's one of those things when a franchise gets into the hands of people that, might be very good at their craft, or who or people that maybe aren't good at their craft but know the property really well. It could go either way. And this crew was really, 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 everyone involved absolutely loved Star Trek. We wanted it to be the best thing that we could possibly make it. Um, Selfishly for us, as fans, but also for you guys. It deserved that, and I feel like we're kind of in an era of rehashing and recycled content, and where do you go next, and balancing fan service versus originality versus, just kind of falling short. And it was really on our minds every day. And I think every time we met, that was the tenor of the meeting was, is this something that's going to come back on us? Or is this something that somebody's going to post on Twitter and we're going to get really excited about and show our families that like somebody noticed the thing that we put in there and posted it on Twitter? So we just really wanted it to be, I mean, down to there's like a sticker on the nacelle that is a specific radiation symbol that we found in an obscure episode of TNG,
No
and
way.
remixed it for our show, kind
That's
of
Die Hard right there.
we
You didn't
futurized it,
see it, Ryan?
stayed true.
Yeah, I mean, come on, you know me.
There's
I
also
catch
there's
things on
also
the first watch every time.
Every time.
there's also in the like in the pilot though there's some like weird stuff that happens on the consoles that people picked up on Twitter, and we were like, uh-oh, we have to be double hard on ourselves from now on to make sure that we get every, like, there is not, will it be seen or not. Usually you get away with on a TV show, is it going to be in the background? Is it going to be
Yeah,
featured? Is it going to be a hero asset? And it's like, no, everything's a hero asset. Everything's a hero asset. Everyone's going to see everything. Let's just
yeah,
make sure it goes through like 7 checks, you know.
yeah.
Well,
You could. Oh, I
no,
just
please go
wanted to
ahead.
ask lastly, because I was very interested about Gwen's culture and her people that visiting the planet and kind of visiting her people and getting a taste of their culture. That's one of the great things about the Star Trek and the world building that they do. And you guys had an opportunity to do that in these few episodes, kind of taking us there and introducing us into a new species, a new civilization, a new culture. Um, could you talk a little bit about, creating that world? There were some things that jumped out for me that I thought were really interesting, kind of like the wardrobe of the characters, the hieroglyphs that I saw in the caverns on the walls. Just little things that jumped out I thought were very well placed details.
Thanks. That was so Kevin and Dan had a whole backstory when it came to that civilization. And it was I think it was really, really tricky to pull off because for the whole first season, they're the villains.
Hmm.
And the idea was that we would be going into this world in these first 5 episodes, and we would be kind of witnessing like a naive culture, you know? And they wanted to play with this idea that, we just saw a level of technical sophistication that was, almost Borg-like when it comes to its capacity to destroy the Federation. And now we're going to see the civilization where Gwen lands, and it's kind of like medieval Inquisition times, where there are people that believe in science and secret, but while they're sufficiently advanced, the powers that be have kept people closed off to the idea that there might be other people out there. And the idea that coming in contact with those cultures, coming in contact with aliens would, kind of disrupt and destroy your civilization and lead to
Hmm.
the Civil War, which was such a cool idea.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, so they had Kevin and Dan have this whole backstory about the civilization and how they grew up underground, and they, the same way they believe that we emerged out of the sea. They had this idea that they emerged from, from inside the planet. And so when they go down into that well to do the
Hmm.
battle, that's really from the old ancient times, and I think that harkens back to some of like the, Vulcan cultural fights that we've had. We've
Hmm.
seen a couple of races that, harken back to their, the
The Klingon stuff.
totally, totally. And yeah, so the hieroglyphics on the wall,
Hmm.
um, like the little floaty bits of particles that they use to use
Hmm.
their minds to form,
Hmm.
um, all that stuff. And yeah, it was a cool idea. It was really tricky. It was really a hard set to make. And we had to make a couple of different versions of it because Gwen time trips between, the two different time
Right.
periods.
Right.
Uh, and so it went through like a couple of different iterations, and landed where it did, honestly, because of time. There were some things we wish we could have done to make it a little cooler. There were some ideas in the hopper that really would have been fun to pull off.
Hmm.
But I think it still turned out great. I think it still turned out great. We had these, like we had these like statues that would be down there that you can see in there. Gwen runs up one of the statues, but we had this whole piece where you'd see the statues kind of crumble, kind of like at the beginning of the Mummy, where like they rotate around like the thing in the desert and the paint strips off and that kind of thing. Um, when
I got a
the
little bit of vibes of the Mummy. I got a little Stargate vibes, a
Yeah,
little bit. I got a little vibes of a little bit of everything, really.
yeah.
But it was very interesting to see. I like the wardrobe, just the planet, the way it was drawn. I thought was really great, and even
The
the shots that were
I
taken.
think the elders are my favorite
Yeah,
Hmm.
the
character.
elders.
Yeah, the
Yes,
elders. Um, we see the elders run at one point, and they were never supposed to move, which is why they're so like ornate and intricate.
Yeah,
yeah.
because
I
it
saw
doesn't
those
look
elders up
like.
there. I was like, who's going to walk up those steps to even try to?
Right, right, right. But they are cool characters. They are cool characters, And we
Yeah,
we wanted to make sure that there was this idea of different social orders within the
the
Valdecott.
hierarchy. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
hierarchy and like a priest class and that kind of stuff.
Looks beautiful. Those guys
Yeah.
Thanks.
look amazing.
Yeah.
We're just about out of time here, Patrick, but you've been amazing and we really appreciate you. Very quickly, a couple quick polls. We
Right.
asked the question, how much of Prodigy season 2 have you seen? 22% said none yet. So they got some homework. Another 22% said some of it, like us. We're powering through in July. 48% said all of it, and 6% said, I've seen all of it more than once already.
Oh,
They're a
wow.
week in and they've already seen the season twice. It's amazing. We have one other poll that we'll close out here. The question is, okay, so we can't announce just yet who our guest will be next week. Can't quite announce that yet, but we can announce the guest for next week. And the poll question is, who do you think will be on our show in 2 weeks? 0% said Brett Gray, 21% said John Noble, 31% said Robert Beltran, and 47% Star Trek number said Robert Picardo. The answer is none of the above, huh, suckers? No, it is Robert Beltran. Can you believe it? Robert Beltran will be with us in a couple weeks. We're really excited about that.
Yeah.
Love that dude. He's got the
OG.
smoothest voice, doesn't he? Jeez.
He's an OG. Yeah, definitely. An OG. Definitely wanted to walk away with one line that I loved in this episode, and that was when Jankum he hits the console really hard, and he says, and everything starts to work, and he's like, percussive maintenance. And I, and I try percussive maintenance on almost anything that I see doesn't work. If I see the
Pretty
laundry
good.
machine's not working, I start banging it.
Oh,
Percussive maintenance.
there's some good examples of percussive maintenance all through the season. So
That's Jank
I
and
love
Pog
that
all
one.
over.
for those 22% of the people, I won't say anything, but the 50% of the people, you know what I mean.
See, we don't know yet, but we can't wait to find out. We do want to give a
Yeah.
very special thanks to certain people, and their names are Homer Frizzell, Dr. Anne-Marie Siegel, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackman, Tom TJ, Jackson Bay out in Missouri, Titus Moeller, Dr. Mohammed Noor, Tierney C. Diekman, Anil O. Palat, Joe Balsarati, Mike Gu, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, My Live from Tokyo, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Justin Weird, Jake Barrett, Henry Unger, Allison Leach Hyde, Julie Manisfee, Jed Thompson, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, Glenn Iverson, Dave Gregory, Tim Baum, Chris Sternett, the Roddenberries, that is the STLV house band, check that out, and of course, Jason Oken and Greg K. Wickstrom. All right. Well, Patrick, thank you so much for hanging out with us on a beautiful Monday evening. This has been so cool. Everybody at home, watch
Amazing.
Prodigy a ton. Yeah, we hope to have you back
Yeah.
sometime, by the way.
Love to come back whenever you guys want to have me.
It was great. Great show. You guys hit the ground running with this second season. So I'm looking forward to the next batch.
I hope you love it.
All right, everybody,
Thank
thank you
you.
for joining us. Everybody in the live chat, we really appreciate it. When this video ends, hit the refresh button. The comments will drop down. Keep the comments going. Let us know your thoughts of this fantastic episode. And hey, tell Patrick thanks. This has been super cool. We learned a lot. We laughed a lot. Really appreciate you taking the time, Patrick.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, we will see you next week. As soon as our TNG review ends on Monday night, we're jumping live to talk more Prodigy. And we'll see you next time. Until then, always remember the 7th rule. Things on Zoom move.